Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty with another edition of this week's vlog. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dustin. I'm autistic. I'm nearly 40 years old, and I've been doing this autism thing for about 25 years. I live independently, and I have a part-time job that will be soon celebrating my 15th anniversary in the next coming month and a half. So I have a lot that I have accomplished in my life. And today, if you're going to listen to my vlog or watch it here on YouTube, we're going to talk about, daring to dream and, thinking where I am today is nowhere where I dreamed of 25 or even 30 years ago when I was young. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I dare to dream. I think that's a nice name of putting a name to it, a vlog, because I do a vlog every Friday, and it also is streamed on many platforms, but as podcasts. But dare to dream. I think sometimes we think, when we're handed the autism diagnosis or any diagnosis really, it doesn't matter because I suffer from some mental health challenges as well. I think sometimes we think the worst in everything. We think that, our lives never going to get better or things are never going to improve. And while there may not everything is linear, and straightforward, and it's going to be an always success. You're going to be grateful for the things, the basic things I think that you can do for yourself. As I said, I live independently. I've been doing that for over 6 years before. A lot of it has had a lot, or has been a major setback, but we've improved that. And for 2025, I'm hoping to go forward, as being more independent and working more, being more well and taking care of my mental health because that is important. We're learning more than ever in this day and age, that mental health is very important to take care of. And I think I've always known that, but for flawed thoughts that I had about certain things like medication, that wasn't always the case. But now I understand that. And I have to pl partly give credit to that to my day service for teaching me these things and looking at handouts, and you think, oh well, it's a handout and it's not going to tell you nothing. But sometimes as autistic people, we need to see things plain as day and understand why things work and how things work. And for me, learning my diagnoses and working through those things and having a binder with those in has really helped set the course this year for a better thing to understand and look back on why we do X, Y, and Z, why we do X, Y, and Z treatment, so on and so forth. Why do we do those things? Why is that important? And we see that that's important in order, number one, to prevent relapse, but also have to have a very good quality of life. You don't really realize how possible things are until you actually take care of yourself for a little bit and you see how possible they really are, what the potential that you have in yourself. And I want to say, as an autistic person growing up, I was diagnosed in 1998 with Asperger's syndrome. But even before that, I had challenges as early as preschool, really. I had 3 years of preschool, which was not the norm. I required an extra year because my mother had not felt I was ready for kindergarten yet. And with that, I was able to go to kindergarten, but it took some time. And it took fighting systems. It took advocating. My mother was advocated like no other mother, as I like to say. And it took her a lot of fighting systems, fighting people, uh, being stern, but yet calm, dignified, and relaxed about it, and fighting for what I needed. And sometimes it wasn't exactly what I needed, but it was enough to get by in the interim. So probably just give a brief rundown, and I do say brief because there's a lot of my story. I really do unpack a lot of stuff I do remember. I was in a specialized preschool from 3 to 5, till the time I was 6, and I went into kindergarten. Probably kindergarten was okay. First grade was really a disruption. It was a whole day when I was in kindergarten, it was a half day, and then we went to the full day. Being in first grade, that was a challenge because just I didn't want to be there, and it was too much for me. I learned that now. I didn't understand why I acted, and I said like I didn't want to be in school and all this, but now I see why because it's too much for me sometimes. And then second grade was sort of okay. I had a really good teacher that really helped with that. It was very excellent teacher. Third grade, chaotic. I had to switch schools, go to what was called an emotional support classroom, which they just removed those from public schools, and they're in alternative schools this year. So that in our county, so that's a big thing. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth was there. Had a good slew of teachers and eight paras that really stepped up the game and really took on initiative to teach me well. Junior high, not so great. I only went to 2 years of junior high because it was chaotic. There was always problems. As you know, puberty is a non-starter for autism, and it fuels the fire. Along with changing to the junior high middle school format, that was a challenge. So on top of everything, it was just a mess. And eventually, I became diagnosed with one of my diagnoses that I have now was bipolar disorder. And between all that and the puberty and acting out and just trying to find the right placement, eventually my parents couldn't take care of me no more. I was not safe to be in their care. They willingly put me in a residential treatment facility for 9 months in my ninth grade year, but I did get to go one of the best high schools in an adjoining county. Live the best. They're really well adapted. And when I came back to my home district for 10th through 12th, which is how our senior high was then, was, let's make this work in some ways that we can, as much as we can, to see to try to compare it to the other district I was in. And for the most part, I did many things. I didn't need early release from the classroom. I was able to eat lunch in the cafeteria a good bit. The last 2 years of school, I went on work release part of the day. So in senior year. And I actually went out into some of the mainstream, was actually commingling with some of the people and learning how to communicate better. And I guess that's where it really hit home this week because, people were telling me we had a meeting at work and we don't really have meetings like that as much anymore. But people tell me I could really articulate. People could tell me that I'm a wealth of knowledge. And I've had the job over 15 years, and I have to say some of the closest people I've met that got me the job, not only got me the job, but also that are still there and making sure that I'm doing well and checking for my well-being. But backing up to, getting out of high school, having the skills ready. And then I went to day services, which I'm still in part-time. And then I took a trip to a vocational school. I was in there for a year. Really good social skills. Met my roommate, we still connect once in a while. Very well relatable. Very well journey. Learned how to ride the train, the bus. Very good skills there as well. Got out, was like, better do something. Went back to day services for about filled some employment gaps with some people at the front desk at the job sites for a few years on the lower tier, and then eventually got my job that I have now 15 years ago, moved up to that tier. And then I went back to community college, got a associate's degree in web publishing, um, all my own, no disability help whatsoever. Um, and I got a certificate in web applications. So I have a lot of computer savviness, and even though I'm older, I still learn as I go. I pretty much learn on my own, but very intelligent. Although I'm not great at math, I'll admit that. But then after that, so I've been working for about 15 years. And, the discussion talked about, therapy, which I've been in therapy for 20, 21. I can't remember exactly, about living independently. And I just didn't want to do it. But, I looked at two other places before I looked at a apartment and I just wasn't ready. I was 21, fresh, young. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't have the skills. Um, Looked at like a fair weather lodge. If you want to look that up, it's not exactly a fair weather lodge, but it was like a boarding house and a transitional housing thing. And there were a lot of things about it, and I just didn't feel like I want to go into a shared living environment. So then, 3 years after I looked into that shared living, I became more working on the social skills and stuff and being more articulate. And I won a county award. I've won several awards um, through the day services, but ultimately, ultimately, I did get in my first apartment, and even though there were struggles there, there were many struggles. So I had some setbacks. And it's okay to have setbacks as long as you have a good support system and people take care of you and get what you need. And I was fortunate for that. And then some COVID, right before COVID happened, there were some issues with said first apartment, and so I had to vacate and I lived with my parents for a little bit, and then I moved in again to where I'm at now 4 years ago, in November, and I've been doing mostly well. Had some major, so I had a little setback, like I said in the beginning, but eventually I picked up on that and became used to things. Some of the other things I think that, we look for, obviously I'm looking at you in a camera, even though I can look at anybody now in a camera, I have good eye contact. I think part of, I was always told as autistic when I was autistic to look people that was prompted constantly of eye contact. And so it's always in my mind, quick constant reinforcement to look in my eyes and see, to look at people and do and work with people and try to understand them social skills, even though the unwrittens and stuff, it was all, catch and learn basically. And psychotherapy had helped a lot with that as well. On top of, things that medication helps with that too. But it's all, in a process, I couldn't carry a conversation worth a tune in a bucket 20 years ago. I was afraid to call somebody that even I knew on the phone, for fear of talking to them. But when they called me, I was okay. But when calling them, it wasn't. And when I had got to work, I still had a lot of fear about that and still do it sometimes. Sometimes I do have to make phone calls at work. No, I'm not totally bad with a provider or a person that I know who I'm calling, but when I don't know who I'm calling, I do struggle a little bit, but I get through it pretty well. And part of my job is doing surveys so on paper through the phone. So sometimes I will have to call people, and I do pretty well, ironically. It's been years of coaching, years of practice, years of social skills, years of understanding unknown conversations, social pragmatics, so much stuff. I will say that COVID did have a little bit of a setback, but we are ahead. We are doing better. But I'm saying all of these things to you on this video. It's just called Dare to Dream, and I feel like I need to get into people who need to understand, it's hard right now. I get it. COVID broke something we can't fix. I heard that on Saturday Night Live. And there's that. There's the mental health concept. People are struggling. And there's many autistic people in the world right now. And I just want to share with you just a glimpse of hope that it's going to be okay. It's going to be anything is possible if you really try your darndest. I had lots of goals. I didn't even have goals really. I don't really never was one to really set goals. And, part of that was never my thing, but now I'm working more on that. I think setting goals, setting a bucket list, things I want to do because there's always room to grow. There's always room to grow anywhere in your life. And the sky's the limit. And you can say one thing about autism, and I always want to say, if you met one, it's always said, if you met one person, you've met me. But there's different people across the spectrum. It's not linear. So there's different people across the spectrum. You've only met me. I'm one person with autism. I'm only one autistic person. There's plenty of autistic people. We all function differently. We all have different support needs. We all have different abilities and disabilities. So we have comorbidities, which are other diagnoses on top of our autism, physical, mental, any kind of things. So working with that, you have to understand that you're not going to see two of the same autistic people the same. You might see similar connections or people who are close in some ways, but not in another. So it's very different. Everybody has a different path they take. And there's different therapies. I don't really like to get into the therapies because I was older, so it's like this, and ABA wasn't available when I was living. And honestly, when I was diagnosed with Asperger's back in 98, and when I got out of residential, nobody knew. There was nobody. We got a few handouts here and there in the hospital when I was in the psych ward a couple times, but we really didn't get, into the skinny. And people and the professionals didn't really understand how to help because there wasn't a lot of material given at the time, not in the way there was now. There was no ASER, there was no state collaboratives or state websites to work at advocating. I don't even think we heard the term self-advocacy. I heard it later on, but I don't think I heard it as much as a young person or as coming of age that I heard of it then. So it was a very different thing then. And it was very, very different. Um, but now that I know what self-advocacy is, I know what that's about. I learn how to be more independent every day. And it's always learning something and doing something new. If you asked me even 3 or 4 years ago, would I cook something? I'd probably laugh in your face. If you asked me if I would clean, I'd probably laugh in your face. But, the clubhouse model of psychiatric rehabilitation has helped me immensely. All of those things have helped me. I'm also, part of a weight loss support group, and that helps me too with my social outlet. So it's definitely working in different ways. And I'm doing a lot better than what I have been. And it's been a long journey. And we're almost at 40. And I'm living my life the best way I can. And I just want you to know you need to dare to dream, dream for things. And I may not even forgot to tell you, I got a driver's license too. I learned to drive. I had a nice gentleman teach me from the state paid for me to learn a driver's license. I passed my driver's test on the first try. I did very well with that. I drove on interstates, four-lane highways, roundabouts. I did it all. So these are just some of my accomplishments, and I know it may not seem linear, and I got my driver's license at 33, by the way. So, you know, nothing is, you're not going to see, you have to be patient with yourself. Some things don't have, some things didn't happen for me in the normal stages, in the normal ranges, as milestones didn't meet up. I didn't, was a toilet trained to 4. I couldn't take care of myself in the bathroom until I was about 8 or 9. I, um, I didn't shower on my own until I was about 11. So it's all, linear process. I didn't get a driver's license till 33. Now I'm a little anxious about driving and that has its own thing. Everybody in the autistic community, well, some people in the autistic community can relate to that and can elaborate, it's very scary out there on the road and I'm kind of skeptical about it. I am fortunate with public transportation and shared ride and those things to get me to where I need to go and I have family around, so that's always a helpful thing. But I just want you to dare to dream. Think of the impossible. Think that you have to have hope every day as an autistic person or a person with mental health challenges. You have to have the hope and the power that you can try, at least try, and never, don't ever not give up hope. Don't throw in the towel because there is hope for you. And you just got to dare to dream. So I think that's what I wanted to get across to you this evening. And I kind of jumbled everything together, but I think you get the hint. So if you have any questions, you can comment. And if you haven't followed me already, be sure to like and subscribe to this video for more content. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Pinterest. That handle is Dustin's Dynasty. I'm on the web. That address is www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, I have podcasting platforms on Linktree. They are everything's at Linktree/Dustin's Dynasty. Again, I want to thank you for a good night. Stay warm this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye for now.